Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Isn't That Rich podcast. I am one of your hosts, Ashley McVicker, and today I am here with my other favorite host,
Jill Franks. It's so good to be here, Ashley, and I am excited for all that we're going to talk about today.
Me too.
We have a really fun topic, and that is how to prepare now to buy a house this spring and really anytime in the future. How do you prepare?
Yeah. And would you say that buying a house in the spring is probably the best time or the most popular time to buy a home?
I think it's the most popular time. I mean, just the way, weather-wise, no one wants to be moving in the wintertime. Everybody, it's fresh out of the winter, snow's gone, they're ready to make a move. And so the spring is the most common time where people are looking to buy a home, but the home buying process doesn't really start in the spring. It starts way before that. And we're here to talk about what you can do today to get ready for the spring.
So I'm going to back up a little bit. I want to talk about how I love to poke around on Zillow and other real estate websites. I know a lot of people do too, just because you like to see what houses are available around here.
Yeah, Zillow is so fun.
It's so
spend
fun.
way too much time looking at homes on Zillow.
Yeah, but what I've noticed recently is there's not inventory whatsoever. And if there is, there are houses that have been on the market for 250 plus days and they're not looking good. And so moving forward, like you said, Jill, the springtime is the time when more houses will probably become available. Some things will shift in our economy, and you'll want to be prepared to buy a house because we've seen in the last few years that you want to be ready when that perfect house becomes available, because other people are wanting that house too.
Absolutely. So when they do pop up on Zillow or wherever you're shopping for a home, you want to have all your ducks in a row. You're ready to jump on there, go to a showing, and have your offer ready. Because as we've seen the past couple of years, those dream homes, those ones that are within your specific price range, they don't last long. And so what you can do now to prepare for that is so important.
One last thing before we get started, what I've learned working at the bank is that real estate agents honestly won't even give you the time of day. And I don't mean it to sound mean, but they won't really give you the time of day or take you seriously if you don't have these things in order that we're about to talk about, or if you don't have a pre-approval ready to buy a home, because their end game is to sell houses and make money. And so if you're somebody that wants to get a house and you want that dream house, you better be prepared. So Jill, if you want to kick us off and tell us the first thing that we need to do to be prepared to buy a house this spring or whenever, let's get started.
So the number one thing before you go and get pre-qualified for your loan is you want to work on your credit. Like, you want to check in and see where you stand credit-wise before you go and take those actions. So, and there's so much stigma about getting your credit pulled, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's kind of, nobody wants to talk about what their credit score is. I feel like I don't think I've ever shared my credit score with anybody out loud. Have you?
Probably,
really,
knowing me.
Yeah.
When I learn about something, I'm like, oh, I've got it this number. But yeah, it is a weird concept to talk about because it's kind of like a social security number. Like, everyone has one. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, but the first thing, we're going to work on our credit first. So we're going to get that score up and aim for above 700. So nobody wants to get their credit pulled. And the reason why is because we've heard it's harmful. So if you're working on your credit, like, you don't want to get it pulled and have points removed. But we've learned, Ashley, this is something you and I have learned, that when someone does pull your credit, it actually doesn't reduce your score by very much at all. No, I think when we talked to some of our mortgage experts in our office, they told us it was somewhere between 2 to 5 credit points, which is, in the big scheme of things, not that much.
Right.
And the longer you're building your credit, the longer you're working on it, the more time that you'll have to add those points back to your credit score. So it's not as scary as it sounds to have your credit pulled. in
Yes. So
reality.
I can kind of tell a story about that. I remember last fall, I was thinking about buying a house. And so I was like, well, I guess I have to get pre approved. And I had just learned about credit. And thankfully, I have access to our mortgage lender all the time, 5 days a week. And I was freaking out. I was like, is my credit going to be destroyed? What if I don't buy a house? Like, I had all these questions. And they were like, no, like, we're just going to pull your credit. It's okay. And a pre-approval, which is what I was after, was getting a pre-approval. They pull your credit and a pre-approval lasts for 90 days. So by the time you get that 2 to 5 point hit and you have this 90-day pre-approval for a loan, your credit would have already been built back up. So it's nothing to
Absolutely. It
worry about.
doesn't take
Now,
that long.
if you're going around to multiple banks and you're trying to get a car loan and a personal loan and you're getting your credit hard pulled every single week, I would be careful with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're going and buying a car and you're buying an ATV or you're making all these silly purchases, opening a new credit card, that's every time you do that, essentially, that's a hard pull. So when you're doing that 6 or 7 times versus just that one to check in, see where you stand credit wise, it's not going to affect you or have much of an effect at all.
Yeah. So Jill,
So you'll have plenty of time to earn that back.
yeah. Since we're talking about it now, let's go ahead and jump into this. I've been saying the word hard pull, but do you want to explain to everyone what the difference is between a soft pull and a hard pull on your credit? Because I didn't even know that those were two separate things.
I really didn't either until this year. We did a big dig into credit cards and credit and background on all that. And so I learned this year that a hard pull is when companies like a bank or a credit card, they pull your credit and you accept that credit. So say you're applying for a mortgage, like you're going to actually get that mortgage. Your mortgage expert is going to do a hard pull on your credit and they're going to find out what all's been going on with your credit and get that credit history. But when a soft pull is like, have you ever received a offer for a credit card in the mail?
All the time.
So credit card companies do what's called a soft pull. So before you're not accepting this credit card, right? But they do a soft pull to see if you would actually qualify for this credit card, and then they mail you the offer. So it doesn't harm you, but it will, you can figure out what your credit is a little bit before. So soft pull, nothing, no points are taken away. It's fine. Nothing happens. But a hard pull is when you're actually going for that credit. You're going to use that credit.
Yeah. And good to know because, I guess anybody, if they got a credit card in the mail, you're probably like, what in the world? Why am I getting this offer? But it's not going to mess up your credit at all.
No.
But I want to talk a little bit about, some ways that we can learn more about our credit, and then we can jump into how we can start fixing our credit, making it a little bit better. I think with anything, you just need to know what's going on with your situation and your financial situation. So the best place that you can look for your credit score and your credit report is basically it's a list of everything that you've ever taken a loan out for, paid for. It's a way that you can view if there's fraud against yourself, essentially. And then a credit score is what a mortgage lender or anybody loaning you money looks at. Where you can find your credit score and your credit report, you can go to annualcreditreport.com. And we'll leave that in the show notes for you, annualcreditreport.com. And the government is required to let you see your credit score and your credit report free once a year. And you should do that. You should set an appointment with yourself, get on that website, and make sure that everything is correct that's supposed to be correct. Everything that you've taken a loan out for, that's something that you have done and somebody else hasn't. And it's a great way to catch fraud. So I highly recommend doing that.
There are several websites out there that say here is, we'll offer you, you can see your credit report, but not all of them are safe. And so we always like to recommend using that annualcreditreport.com. It's the safest place. They're not going to sell your information there. If you've gone to any of the freecreditreport.com or whatever, any other site like that,
Credit
oftentimes Credit Karma, all of a sudden you'll get all of these emails from, you don't even know what, maybe a bunch of different credit cards start, emailing
your
you without
information.
your
Yeah.
permission. Yes. So they can sell your information if you go and use those. So the safest one where you're not going to get your information sold to other companies is annualcreditreport.com, like Ashley mentioned. So I love that. It's a great way to keep up with yourself, to prevent fraud too. So you can see any kind of inquiry, whether it's a soft pull or a hard pull
Right.
on your credit report. So going over that at least once a year is so important. When you get that free report, the best thing you can do to protect yourself from fraud and credit theft is by reviewing that credit report.
Moving forward to kind of, fix our credit, get a higher score. I think one of the best things that you can do, I mean, I know this is the best thing, and this is just really easy advice. Start paying your stuff on time and start paying your stuff back by the terms of the contract. So if you have a credit card and you're supposed to pay on the 13th of every month, start paying on the 13th of every month and start paying back what you owe. That's one of the easiest ways to start getting your credit back to where it should be. So you can get a loan, so you can actually take money out for something like your dream home that you want. Do you have any more advice, Jill, with that, with credit before we move on?
Yeah. I mean, like Ashley said, paying your credit card on time and also reducing the balance is the best way. So make sure that you're actually reducing that revolving credit. So the more revolving credit is like a credit card, right? Or a small personal loan. Those are revolving credits, types of credit. So you want to make sure that you're reducing that total balance, and that will help increase your score super fast. Like for instance, we took a vacation this month. Obviously, I'm in Florida, but I had put a lot of the trip, like flights and all this stuff, on my credit card. And it was funny. I keep a really close eye on my credit score, and my credit decreased by 20 points because I carried a larger balance this month. Yeah. And so just by paying off the balance, I know, isn't that crazy? But my credit card tells me what my TransUnion credit score is. And I like to keep a really close eye on it. By paying that off this month, I was able to increase my credit by 20 points. So I received those credit points back super fast. In every 30 days, your credit gets pulled. And so if you reduce your balance on your credit within those 30 days, those points come right back on, which is so good to know.
I want to talk about real quick. You just said TransUnion. So I think this is really important for everybody to know. I didn't know this, but there's 3 credit bureaus, and that's TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. If another credit bureau is trying to act like they're a credit bureau, they're not, because there's only 3. So that's just a hot tip for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to talk about working with a lender early in the process, because we kind of talked about, if you don't have a credit score that is in the 700s right now, what can you do to get it there? And obviously we talked about reducing your debt balance on revolving credit, but then the best place to find out what steps you personally need to take is to get with your lender ahead of time. A lender can give you easy steps to increase your credit in a fast way, because everybody's credit is different. So maybe, like I use my example of, I carried a large balance this month because of what my lifestyle was. I'm on vacation. You're using your credit card more often, but maybe you're not paying your, you missed some of your payments. That's another thing that affects your credit. So how can you show that, how can you increase your credit better, would be by making on-time payments, like we spoke about earlier. So everybody's different, but the way to find out what you can do is to get with your lender early in the process. And a year is not too early to start, like we mentioned before.
Right. I'm going to use that as a segue into kind of our next tip for how to prepare now to buy a home. And that, Jill, is just to share your financial situation with your lender, with, your spouse maybe, or whoever you're working with to, find this dream home, to buy this dream home. And so I think sharing your financial situation is so important, because if you don't, you're not being honest with yourself. You're not being honest with your finances. You're not being honest with what you can afford. And that can get you into some pretty deep trouble. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. And I think it's so important I know we mentioned to not get with a realtor early in the process because you're not pre-approved, but I also think like it's so important to have what you're looking for on the radar of a real estate agent, because they have more skin in the game. They can see when properties are coming on the market earlier than we might be able to on Zillow. So maybe they know ahead of time that a property that fits what your goal is ahead of, they know that that property is going to come on the market and you're the first phone call. So if you get with your lender and you get with your realtor ahead of time, you have a leg up on the game. And I like to talk about, the goals of a real estate agent and the banker. And if you're going into a bank and they're trying to push you into a mortgage you're not ready for, and they're not willing to sit down with you and speak about like what you need to do to be ready for this mortgage, then they're not the bank for you. You want to be sure this is a big decision. Like your home is one of the biggest purchases you'll ever make in your lifetime. And you shouldn't take it lightly. So get with your lender and have them walk you through the steps. You want a lender that's going to take the time. Same with a real estate agent. You want to be with an agent that takes the time. And when you're ready, they're going to get you in the right home for you. Yeah, because just for the banker's example, we don't want you to default on your loan. We don't want you not to be able to make the payments. So in the long run, that will end up costing your bank more than it would be to get you in the right loan in the first place. So
I think too, finances can be like tricky to talk about or embarrassing. And so when you are working with a real estate agent, you are working with a mortgage lender, I think, just trust your gut. And if they're saying things that are making you uncomfortable about your finances, or they're not genuinely helping you figure out the situation, and find someone else, I think, because finances are like our health. We talk about this all the time. They're so important to us. And, those things are hard to talk about sometimes. So find somebody that you're comfortable talking about your finances with, so that you can make the best decisions for yourself. Because like you said, Jill, a mortgage is one of the biggest financial decisions you will ever make in your entire life. It's a pretty big chunk of change every month out of your paycheck. And so you want to find the right option that fits with your finances and your lifestyle. And your mortgage lender and your real estate agent are going to be the two people that are going to help you figure that out.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, if somebody makes you feel ashamed, or, that you're not ready, you're at the wrong location. Go to a different bank, there's so many options out there for banks and real estate agents. It's amazing how many options that people actually have. Mm-hmm. So interview them, sit down with them, interview them, and, get somebody that fits with your values, that fits with your goals, and the process will go so much smoother. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to stick with the same person that you talk to first. Shop around.
Yeah, shop around. Did you know that 49% of all home buyers spend less than a year preparing for the mortgage process? That's
wild.
That's wild.
And like we just
it's
talked
not bad,
about, but I think longer about what car that I'm going to buy or other purchases, but a house is a huge purchase. Yeah. And to not spend time doing the research is insane.
And to say you're going to live in this house for the rest of your life, maybe you would want to think a little bit longer about a decision like that. And though you can always sell a house, you can always move. Still, it's a very big decision.
I think it's true too that, a lot of people are like, I don't know if I'm ready to buy that house or build that house, or if I'm ready to take on this responsibility now. And we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And right now we can talk about the market and interest rates and what's going on right now. So maybe now is not the right time for you to buy. But if you're doing this research ahead of time and you're, you know, figuring out what you need to do, you're going to be better off knowing how to better your credit, how much you need to save when the time does come if you start today.
Yeah. I can't believe how much information there is to know about. I don't want to say I can't believe it because, it's a house, but there's so much that I still learn every single day about the mortgage process and buying a home, building a home, whatever it is. So I really can't believe that people just jump right into it. And for some people, I guess that works for them. They're not, super prepared, but they make it work. But for other people, you probably should learn what's going on with mortgages and the market and all that stuff. So we just encourage you to educate yourself, read stuff, listen to podcasts, listen to us, come to the bank, talk to a mortgage lender. Everyone is definitely willing to help you at Farmer State Bank. And yeah, we just want everything to go smooth for you. So the next tip we have for you when you're preparing to buy a home is obviously to start saving some money.
That's right. You need to start saving for a down payment on your house.
Yeah.
And the more you have saved, the better. Yes, there are so many upsides to having a larger down payment on a home than to not having much of a down payment. So you want to be saving now. Even if you've already started saving, we want you to push more money towards that. If you're planning on buying a home in the next 6 months or a year, start upping that, right? So start building your savings now. And there are so many fun ways that you can play games, set a certain amount and see if you can stick to that budget to start saving in the future and start automating that savings. I know you have a trick. You transfer money to your savings once a month, don't you, Ashley? Or what do you do to start saving?
First of the month, I have it on my calendar. I always transfer a set dollar amount to my savings accounts. Just so I am in the practice of making sure I have money for certain things when I need it. This is random, but I pay my car insurance biannually just to get a discount, but I still technically just pay the payment every month, but I'm paying it to myself into a separate bank account. Then I take that sum of money and then I pay it at a discounted rate. So there's lots of different things you can do with your savings account, your checking account. You can move money all the time. You can automate money. It's 2023. I mean, let's stop acting like we have no control over our finances. You absolutely do. And like Jill said, saving is one of the best things you can do to prepare to buy a home. And what she was referring to earlier about, putting more money towards a down payment. If you pay 20% of a down payment on your home, you will not have to pay PMI, which stands for private mortgage insurance. So basically what that means is you've paid a decent amount stating like, hey, I can't afford this home. Now, if you didn't pay the 20%, doesn't mean you can't afford the home. And we know that. But it kind of takes a little risk off of the bank and we don't make you pay PMI. So if that's something...
it's showing that you have skin in the game, right? So like if you pay a larger down payment, it's going to show your mortgage company that, yeah, I have skin in the game. I'm committed to this. Like it's not all on you. I'm taking part of this responsibility. I'm going to pay this loan back.
Yes.
I don't want to lose my big down payment.
Right. And PMI, I don't know exactly how much it costs every month. I've read anywhere from like $90 to $150. So, if the 20% down payment is something you can do, crunch the numbers, see maybe I should do this 20% down payment because then I might save $100 a month on PMI. It's not a terrible thing if you have to pay private mortgage insurance. Not everybody can do a 20% down payment. And there are many, many, many mortgages and loan programs that don't even make you have a down payment. But it is something that if you're ready to buy, it's a good thing that we recommend.
Yeah, start saving now. More money is always better for a down payment, for sure.
That's right.
Another something I do. I know Ashley does the transfer in the beginning of the month, and I've actually opened a separate bank account specifically for this. And it's really nice to be able, instead of just having a savings account, my general savings account where I save money, I have a specific account that I've set aside, and I will make transfers to that account. I'm not saving for a home, but I am saving for other goals that I have. Maybe it's an income producing property or something down the road that I hope to purchase on my own. But having that separate bank account and being able to have a goal for that account is super helpful for me. And maybe that is something somebody could take away, is having a specific account set aside to transfer money to for that home purchase or that down payment on the home.
Yeah.
Oh,
And my final kind of salutation with this topic, I would say, this specific one about saving money, I feel like as humans, we think so much about, I don't have it now, so it's never going to happen. But if you look at successful people and the people that, have a nice house or their dream home or whatever financial goal that they had in their life, they were disciplined and they knew that one day 3 years was going to come. And if they had put away $500 every month, they knew they were going to meet that goal. And so just know, if you are disciplined and you do it and you start seeing that traction, you start seeing that money moving on, stacking up essentially, like that's so exciting. And so just know that it can be done. Things don't happen overnight, but if you save, we promise you that, 3 years down the road, if that's when you're ready to buy a home, you will be praising God that you saved this money. Because I can tell you one thing, 3 years is going to come and you're either going to have the money or you're not going to have the money. So start saving.
yes. So we've talked about, working on your credit, building your team and getting the right team on your side, and then sharing that financial situation with your team. We've also talked about how to automate our savings and start building that savings. The next thing, when we kind of mentioned it already, but we want to start working on our debt. So if you have a lot of debt right now, the best thing you can do to prepare for buying a home is to start reducing that debt, whether it's a credit card debt or, you've taken out a car loan, whatever your debt you have, your personal debt, you want to start reducing that as best you can now. So not only are you building your savings, you're reducing your debt.
Right. And when we're preparing to get a loan, when you're going for a pre-approval, they look at your debt to income ratio, correct?
That's right. There's a ratio that you have. So you earn a specific amount and then you hold a specific amount of debt. And if the ratio between the two doesn't match up with the amount that you're going to be taking, like if your debt is already really high, that ratio of debt is really high, and you want to add to that, the bank is going to say you're actually living outside your means and you're not prepared to take on this extra debt. So you either need to earn more or you need to reduce that debt before we'll allow you to take out an additional amount of debt.
That's really good.
So working on that is really important. We talked a little bit about, building your team, and there are so many ways people can get a mortgage nowadays. And
there's so many ways. Like you see commercials on TV like Rocket Mortgage, all these other mortgage broker. I mean, seriously, look for it and you'll find it.
Yeah, every day you're being blasted with, all these commercials with all these different online options for a loan. You just are. It's everywhere. And so we want to talk about that and how you can get yourself into a situation that may not be best for you by just agreeing to one of those loans or committing to one of those loans. So convenience is not always better. And I know today's day and age, Ashley, like walking into an institution is not fun. Like it's scary.
Here's what's scarier, taking a mortgage out online and you don't have a real person to talk to. And then when things go haywire or something's not right with your house, yeah, you're going to be wishing you'd talk to someone at the bank. Sorry, keep going, Jill.
Yeah. And you get what you pay for, right? Like you just really do. So if you have a mortgage lender you've built a relationship with and you know them, you can call them up, like you said, like you can have that ease of mind that somebody's going to answer your questions. They're going to be able to explain what a fee is that you're receiving, or maybe you'll be hit with more fees as an online mortgage service, right? And I think of like the best example I can give for convenience of online is like Grubhub, or like what's the other food service that'll deliver
DoorDash.
food to you? Is there any? Yeah, DoorDash. So like if you look at the fees that you get associated with you're paying for convenience, right? So Grubhub is great. You don't feel like driving to town to pick up your food. But also I look at you'll be paying sometimes double what you would have if you would have just drove to the restaurant in the first place.
I ordered Thai tea the other night on DoorDash, $60. I was like, $60. And like I bought crab rangoon and it was dinner and a Thai tea fried rice. Shout out Thai tea, you're amazing. But yeah, $60. I'm like, I'll never, ever do this again. Never. It wasn't convenient either. They couldn't find the house. And anyway, I'm not trying to dash because it's great, but anyway.
Yeah. For those situations where you can afford to lose $30 on a meal, that's okay. But when it comes to your loan, like your biggest purchases of your life, and you're going to go to Rocket Mortgage, and all of a sudden you see all these fees and you're like, I thought this, because this showed me an interest rate of this and this percent is so much lower than what my mortgage officer was quoting me, but you're not seeing the entire picture. So just
be careful.
Convenience is not always better.
And what's crazy, Jill, and we notice this all the time at the bank, you kind of have some regulars coming in. So when somebody is in the mortgage process, you'll see them come in like once a week or once every 2 weeks. They're in there all the time, asking questions. And I'm not trying to make the process sound tedious or harder, like you always have to be in there. But there are people that have problems or need things to be figured out because there's a lot of hands in the pot, if you will. And they want to talk to the mortgage lender is the boss, and so that's who they go to. Convenience is not better, and we do recommend going to a bank and someone in person, because at the end of the day and at the end of your mortgage and when you're moved into your home, they're going to be the ones calling you in a month saying, is everything working out? Did your payment go through? Is there anything we need to fix? Yada, yada, yada. So, all right. I feel like we've given everybody some really great tips. So today we've talked about working on your credit. We talked about getting your financial team in order. We've talked about automating your savings, building up that nest egg for your house, and then working on your debt, and then recognizing that convenience is not better when it comes to a mortgage.
Yeah, so we really hope that you feel more prepared when it comes to purchasing the home this spring, or if it's in a year from now, maybe it's 2 years from now. Whatever you decide is best for you, we hope that this podcast episode has been informative. You feel like you can take simple action steps today to work on that, and then you'll just be so much better prepared for when it does come time for you to purchase that new home.
So we have obviously the Isn't That Rich podcast, where we put out all of our financial tips and tricks, but we also have social media accounts and newsletter that you can subscribe to on the homepage of our website at myfsb.com. We are here to be your financial gurus. We want to help you get your financial goals in order. And so we hope you enjoyed this podcast today. We hope you'll tune into our next ones. And thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.